Welcome to the show with no name for January 31st, 2014. Oh yeah, that's Jim. I'm Bob. Okay. Yeah, Gavin just got called off at the last minute, so he won't be here. It's he's a little less retired than the two of us. So those things happen. Anyway, Gong Hei Fat Choi. Happy Chinese New Year.
Is that what it is?
Yeah,
Chinese?
Year of the Horse.
Okay.
Year of the Horse. We have, actually, I just rearranged our position so now you can't see our pet dragon for the day. It's actually brought from Hong Kong.
From Hong Kong, really?
By one of your relatives.
One of my relatives.
Well, yeah, it's Philip Tambasco's first cousin once removed. So
Okay.
since we're all related to Philip,
related.
we have to be related to Gary Kassler, who on a trip to Hong Kong brought that back for Laura, and there it is. So I don't even know where to start today. You know, we did the radio show Tuesday, which was kind of devoted to Amsterdam nostalgia as opposed to the hard-hitting stuff we usually do. Let's start with the crazy.
I knew that was going to come.
I don't know what else to say.
The illegal.
Our new city controller, Matt Agresta, doing his job, reporting to the Common Council,
That there's
announces to the
500?
Common Council that there are something, as of last month, there were 515 properties on the foreclosure list.
Right.
Now, to get to the foreclosure list, you have to have not paid your taxes for 2 years.
2 years.
All right? Or have taxes unpaid for a period of 2 years. You could pay the current ones in between. They still don't count to get rid of the...
Right.
Because it's last in, first out or something like that.
And after he reported that, somebody went on the radio.
Yes.
And mentioned that.
Now, I guess Joe Emanuel, was he doing his own show or was he on somebody else's show? He was doing his own show on Monday, I think. So he mentions this. This is I don't know whether he mentioned that it was not a good thing or what he said about it. He mentioned it. The mayor, Thane, calls him a liar, denounces the whole thing and says this is absolutely absurd, this is not true, blah, 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 blah. And all he's doing is reporting what the controller said.
Right.
And the controller subsequently confirmed.
And he confirmed that 2 days later in the newspaper.
Right. So what is she talking about? Well, then she keeps saying, well, to say such things is incendiary. Well, I suppose to say the bridge to nowhere is an absurd waste of $16.5 million is incendiary too. Incendiary is what we do.
Yeah.
So then she said, well, in real life, once they get their dunning notices and know they're about to be foreclosed, a lot of people. That is beside the point. What he stated was absolutely the truth.
That was the list.
And she called it a lie. So, now, let's put some things in historical perspective. We did a foreclosure, I did, when I was corporation counsel, in, I think it was 2005. Pretty sure it was 2005. It was not my first year as corporation counsel because it took almost a full year to get everything done. I think I started in late 2004, and we finally took titles to the properties in like December of 2005. It was a huge project. The paperwork involved is monumental. We had to first we had to have the list.
Right.
Now, my historical perspective, that list we were handed was something in the neighborhood of 220 properties.
Okay.
And we thought that was catastrophic.
Right.
Okay? It's now more than twice.
Yes.
Okay? So the 225 was pretty catastrophic.
In the meantime, didn't we sell the foreclosures?
That was as a result of the difficulties we had here.
Right.
We did that afterwards.
But,
But anyway, I guess my point is, the mayor is saying, yes, the final, the city's not going to end up with 500 something properties. Well, of course, she has no way of knowing that.
No.
But let's assume,
Historically,
people do pay off when push comes to shove.
Yeah.
All right, but when we had 225 or whatever on the initial list, we ended up with about 100 properties. Okay, so maybe a little less than half of the people that were on the foreclosure list. If we end up now with 250 properties,
that's a lot of properties.
Holy moly!
That's a lot of properties.
Some of them are even the same properties.
Now, when we sold them to ATF, what did we get? We get 80 cents, 90 cents on a dollar.
It depended. Anyway, after that, let me just do a couple things about the horrible experience of foreclosure.
Okay.
Because, as I say, the paperwork was unbelievable. We had to have title searches on every one of the 200 some properties.
Right.
We then had to prepare a petition for each property to go to court. And they were all about this thick, okay? And we had to make numerous copies of them because it was not only a copy to be served, a copy to be, sent to the court, a copy to be kept in the file, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
The paperwork involved, I can't tell you the number of reams and reams and reams and reams of paper alone, let alone the secretarial time and et cetera that went on between the controller's office, my office, other people we enlisted to help, the assessor's office. It was huge. So it was not cheap. I think, I forget what we were paying for the title searches, but I think it was like $100 a pop or something like that for 200 of them.
Wow.
Now that all gets added to the back taxes, but still, if you don't collect it.
Yeah.
And then in the end, we get the foreclosure. Now, it ended up, you learn things by your mistakes. One of the mistakes we made was that with the timing of the way the thing worked out, we ended up taking title in December, I think, of 2005. And all of a sudden, we've got these 100 properties, many of which are occupied.
Yeah.
We had to set up policies about charging and collecting rent or evicting people. The ones that were empty, we had to secure because winter was coming. Now you got to take people off of DPW and send them into each one of these houses, drain the pipes. Needless to say, it didn't work. And board them all up, put locks on all of them. It was colossal. So the next year, when ATF, was that what they're called?
Yes. American Tax Funding.
American Tax Funding, who had been doing business in Schenectady, came along and gave us a proposal. We went along with it, and we got in the initial group something like 90 cents on the dollar. And guess what? We came out ahead by way ahead by doing it that way. Now, this is one of those. They had 3 different lists. One is the best properties.
Yeah.
But they evaluated them, which is more than we were really capable of doing. And so they went all through this. We ended up getting like 89, 90 cents on the dollar for that list, and that worked out for us as far as I can tell. The next year, their percentage was lower because now the properties that are left are
undesirable.
And anyway, we needed special legislation from the state, from the state legislature to set up this program because it was an experimental program that we're doing in, 7 or 8 other cities around the state. Schenectady ultimately had some problems with it. The people, I think, who were running ATF left ATF or something like that.
That's true, but in Schenectady, the city, it wasn't the city's fault, but a lot of tax-exempt properties did not file their paperwork in time to become tax-exempt. So when they sold the properties to ATF, all those properties were on that list.
Oh, boy.
So all those tax exempt properties owed taxes, and that's what their problem is now. That caused a big rumble because, I mean, all the churches were paying taxes.
Yeah. Well, let me tell you, when you're dealing with that kind of volume, it's tough to keep track of the specifics.
Yes.
And every time somebody came in and paid their taxes prior to the actual taking title by the city, I had to then file another list with the county clerk taking those off. And I did this, I don't know how many times, like every month until the final title came through. It was a nightmare. It was a nightmare. I learned a lot, though.
I'm sure you did.
Then we get these 100 houses.
Now what do you do with them?
And what do we do with them? Fortunately, we had in place the Property Disposition Committee, which is one of the best things. I don't know who, I think DeChesney set it up initially, because I think it was in existence when I came in. But we had sitting on the Property Disposition Committee the city controller, the city assessor, the fire chief, at least one person from the codes department, myself, an alderman, and I forget who else, but the people representing
all the walls.
Every aspect of the city. You know, the assessor was familiar with the property, the value of it. Obviously, the codes people had been in and out of the properties, knew about it. I think somebody from DPW, the city engineer, was on it. I knew the legal stuff. Yeah, the fire chief, of course, was in charge of all kinds of stuff. And we systematically evaluated every one of the 100-some properties that we'd just taken title to. We actually went on a bus tour of the properties. We categorized them as to whether we should put them up for auction, whether we should demolish them, if in the case of vacant land, whether we wanted to reserve it for the city for some city purpose, or whether we wanted to sell it to the neighbors. Or to a third party, depending on the circumstances. Ordinarily, if there's a lot that lies between a couple of houses and it's no good for anything else, we offer it to the neighbors and see if they want to purchase it. And one or the other usually does. So we did that. Then we set up, fairly quickly, we set up the initial auction of the properties. We had private bid auctions. Wherein everybody is putting down their best. When I say private bid, I mean sealed bid, not private bid. Sealed bid auction, so that if you want to buy the property, you put in what you think is the price you want to pay, because otherwise you don't know who else is going to be bidding on it. We opened those at a public meeting on television. And sold a bunch of the properties that way. In addition to the price, they also had to say what they wanted to do with the property. So we weren't just, a blanket given to people who were going to not pay the taxes. All right, so we got rid of a lot of properties that way, and what was left, we turned over to the Property Disposition Committee to take proposals from people who would come in, and we had meetings once a month, open meetings, and people were coming in from Massachusetts and other places to look at. They're interested in this property. We had them give us, if they were serious about purchasing it, they had to give a detailed explanation of what they wanted to do with the property. They had to show they were financially capable of doing it, having statements from banks and things like that. And we got rid of a lot more properties that way. Now, is the system perfect? No. Because frankly, the economic conditions that are forcing people to not be able to pay their taxes on these properties continue in the city of Amsterdam, whatever people's motives may be, and however good their motives may be when they purchase a property. And some people just were not able to handle it.
They also had an auction for properties. Raise your hand if you want a guy. You want to pay $100, you put up your hand, $100. Another guy says $150, and if I'm not mistaken, that was the last auction they had.
Well, so there you go. So anyway, so we had a system pretty much humming along
Yes.
when we left office,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Okay.
It was working.
It was working.
It was working.
Now, the mayor comes in, what, 6 years ago now?
Mm-hmm.
And she decides she doesn't like the whole concept of the property disposition committee and did away with it.
Right. And they didn't like the idea of the ATF either.
Right? No, they didn't. They didn't like that
because somebody said they could make more money by charging the interest that they were getting. The interest was, usury. It was 24% a year.
Yeah, that's right. Now, here's where the economics of this is a little difficult to explain, because you and I, we get our pension check in the mail. We know how much money we have to spend. That's cash dollars, and we either spend it or we don't spend it, or we save it, or we borrow more and owe it, because that's on the cash basis. Municipal governments are on an accrual basis, which means that when you purchase something, it immediately goes to the debit side, whether you've paid for it or not.
Right.
And when you sell something, or in this case, levy a tax, it goes on the plus side of the ledger, whether you collect it or not.
Right. So you may have $1 million on that plus side, but you don't have that $1 million.
But you don't have $1 million. That's exactly right. Now, reductio ad absurdum, let's assume we have a tax levy of $2 million for the city of Amsterdam. Okay, I don't even know what it really is. Well, we'll just use $2 million for a figure. Let's assume no one pays their taxes. Okay, no one at all. Okay, so not only do we have a plus balance of $2 million over here, with each passing month that the taxes are not paid, there's that 1.5% or 2% interest charged to it.
Right.
Okay.
2%.
So yeah. So at the end of the year, you have the $2 million plus 24%.
Right. Right. But you don't have it.
But you don't have it. So the end result, I remember Kim Brumley explaining this to me, because she was the controller when we did it the first time. She says, when we're done with this, the city's fund balance goes down dramatically, because now instead of having $2 million on the plus side, you have what you sold the properties for, which was nothing. Mm-hmm. Right? So let's say somebody owes $2,000 on a property, and you sell the property for $500. Well, our fund balance just went down $1,500.
Right.
Now, the actual state of affairs hasn't changed a bit. We've got. It's actually a good thing we got rid of property that we can't handle. It's now back on the tax rolls.
But you still don't have that money.
But we don't have the cash. You're supposed to adjust for these things in your budgets, but they don't really adjust for that.
Well, that was part of the overlay that would come up. The overlay was supposed to take into consideration the people that aren't going to pay their taxes,
right,
and the school taxes that we're going to have to pay.
Right.
So that was the overlay. That's why there was.
Right. You have to have a reserve for uncollected taxes.
Right.
They tell you to. It should be like 10 or 11%, I think, reserve for uncollected taxes. They don't always do that.
No.
And as a result,
watch it, Chip.
Yeah, we lose money, right? Yeah, but it doesn't matter, because our administration doesn't pay any attention to what the fund balances are or anything else. Well, don't you realize, we've got this huge fund balance. We're losing 24%. They don't take into consideration what it cost to do the foreclosure. That's the key. Yeah. That's why when I heard them offering us 90 cents on the dollar on these properties, I said, my God, you've got to take it.
Yes.
The net.
Because the
net, we're way ahead.
The net, we're way ahead. Even though you're losing that 24% to somebody else, that it costs you more than the 24% to take
Yes,
care of that
exactly.
individual. Yeah, it's
And we are not, as a city, capable of being landlords of these properties.
no.
Another thing we learned, much to our chagrin, is that as soon as a property is vacant, the thieves come in and strip all the copper.
Yep.
So now what might have been saleable properties are now absolutely worthless. In fact, we had copper stripped by people who were the prior owners. Right?
They moved out and they took the stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
It's that was the big controversy the first couple days. now they've got the one with the golf course
Again.
and I heard on the way up here I had that on that station. Somebody says, "Well, wait a minute." He says, "What's?"
Go ahead, Chip. Up.
He says, "Why don't we sell the golf course? And it's a taxable property, and we'll get the sale of it, and we'll be able to tax it, and we'll be able, that's a good idea. Except,
It's not an absurd idea as compared to some others we've heard recently.
no, but the thing is, what can you get for the thing? There's a private place up in Gloversville sold for $200,000, a 9-hole course.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't as beautiful as ours, that's for sure. But could we get $3 million for our course? I don't know.
I don't know.
I've heard of courses as good as ours going for $2 million and $3 million. They try to get 5, but that doesn't happen. Now, what would the taxes be on a $5 million property? I mean, if it's sold for $5 million, then it would be assessed for $5 million.
Yeah, but then you apply the ratio to it. It would be.
Well, right now.
Well, it's I'm probably paying, I don't even know, on a $100,000 house, $7,000 or $8,000. So.
Yeah, you're paying about $50 a thousand.
Okay.
Well, pretty close, $50 a thousand. But
of course, they're not paying. They would be paying probably the metered water rate, but no garbage rate,
yes,
and their sewer rate would be pretty minimal, I would think. But
now the course has been generating $500,000 a year. $500,000 a year, and the expenses have been a little more than 500.
Depending on who's doing the accounting.
Yeah, they've been losing $50,000-$60,000 a year. But if it's only generating $500,000 a year,
right,
the taxes on that property did not go down because you didn't generate any money. The property taxes are still there, and $50 a thousand, $5 million property, maybe it was assessed for $2 million. So $50 times $2 million is what?
a lot of money.
A lot of money. Can somebody pay the taxes
No.
on that property plus the water rate? Because right now, the theory is, well, we're not generating any taxes on it, and we're not paying any water fee on it. But I don't think any of the other parks are paying water fees.
No, of course not.
Yeah. So those arguments do not hold water.
And it's not like and it's not like we would be selling the water to somebody else if we shut the spigot off.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So yeah, that's not much of an argument. You have to decide whether to me if it's on the cusp like that where it's virtually paying for itself.
Yeah,
just ignore it. It's a city park, just like any other city park.
If the city kicked in $50,000 a year to take care of that golf course,
I could live with that.
That's a good deal.
Yeah,
that's a good.
What
deal.
are we paying for the pool?
That's a good deal. Yeah, and every year they got to repair it.
Yeah.
So these arguments do not hold water.
But it's certainly not crisis mode.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Now, there's so many different ways of looking at it. Of course, the mayor's compromise proposal. I think we talked about. Did we talk about this last week?
I don't know.
It's so absurd. that no one in the first of all, it contemplates having two people doing the one job, and it's difficult to imagine what the course manager would be doing.
Yeah.
This is like typical Ann Thane stuff, where we plan to have a plan. Again, now she's been in office 6 years. She's appointed every member of the Golf Commission. The Golf Commission is supposed to be running the golf course and doing these plans themselves, okay?
Right.
And her answer is, I don't have a plan, so I want to pay somebody $50,000 a year to plan for me.
Yeah.
There's nothing that this guy can come up with that the Golf Commission or Ann Thane herself couldn't implement.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
If he comes in and says, well, okay, I think we should advertise. Well, she says she's the greatest marketer of all time. That's why you should elect her, right? So what marketing has she done? The study from Union College says if you market this properly, your revenue will go up. And we know that's an absurd statement, that the revenue is going to go up 20% a year if you market it in a particular way. But even if, let's assume it's so. Let's assume it's true. She's been there 6 years. Why hasn't she done it?
If marketing this we got a beautiful golf course. There's no doubt about it.
It's a nice course.
Yeah. And we've lost 300 members in the last couple of years. How can you market that golf course to get 300 new members?
Well,
I don't understand that.
Number one, do they want new members? Now, here, let's look back at what she has done, because she's planning for the future. What she has done is she raised the membership fees, right?
Yeah.
Which immediately resulted in a big drop of membership.
Oh, sure.
And she thinks one has nothing to do with the other. As a result of raising the fees, the golf course is taking in less money than they were before.
Yes.
And even on an accrual system, that doesn't make sense.
Now, you can't raise the price of something and expect more people to buy it.
Now, why did she raise the prices? Because she wanted to skim, what was it, $50,000 a year off the golf course into the general fund to pay for her labyrinths and things like that.
Well, she wanted more than $50,000.
Whatever it was. Yeah.
I think $50,000 is the last they had gotten from the college was $50,000. No, I think one year that when I was on the council, I think they got over 100,000.
Well, the point is the Golf Enterprise Fund should not be subsidizing the general fund.
No.
Look, if you raise the prices, and after raising the prices, every single tee time is occupied and bringing money into the city, then I say, then you've reached the right price. I have nothing theoretically wrong with raising the fees. I think the local people should be paying substantially less than people from outside, but nevertheless, you have to weigh in the balance. We're providing something for our citizens as opposed to we're in a business. The city should not be in a business. They shouldn't be running restaurants. They should not be pretending that they know how to run a golf course for profit. If you really want to run it at a profit, you would have no difference between the out-of-towners and the local people, and you'd raise the price. Everybody would pay the same. In which case, the course would be filled with out-of-towners, and the local people wouldn't have time to play.
Exactly.
So you got to balance these things, but not if you're only looking at it as a cash cow. You don't even see that issue. Yeah. So in any event, if there are now openings in the locker room, and there, I think you were talking about how there's all these empty spaces for the carts when there used to be a waiting list.
Yes.
If you've got all this stuff going on, then you're doing something wrong. What you have to do is find a price that maximizes the use of the course. Okay, you get the highest amount with a 100% occupation of the
Exactly.
course. That's what you do.
And that's the key is drop the
And
price.
does Ann Thane have a clue as to what to? No, all she knows is if I raise this money, I will get this cash for my pet projects.
Now, is the pro allowed to promote the course? Is he allowed to say, okay, $100 for a group of 4? Your 18 holes, plus we'll give you a hot dog at your break. Is he allowed to do that?
No,
No.
no.
And that's how you promote the
Yeah.
golf course is the golf commission should be say, yeah, okay, we're going to have a foursome,
Yeah.
$100 for a foursome, and we'll give you the carts,
Yeah,
and we'll give you a hot dog at
Yeah.
the break,
yeah,
or
Yeah.
after 18 holes, we'll give you a steak.
yeah.
I mean, that's the way Kenji Harry does it.
Yeah.
And they just sold out, I believe. They just sold their golf course, Kenji, because they couldn't make it. And they had promotions where a foursome paid $100 and they got, I don't know, a hot dog or something at the, and that's how you promote the course. That's how you get people to come in and play. And it's, what is it, 20 some dollars a person to play?
I have no
18
idea.
holes? So you get $3 or $4 off a person to play, plus you give them a cart if they don't have their own cart. I mean, you can't tell the guy, $26, $23 to play 18 holes. But I can't walk that course. Well, that's another $10 for. When I started playing golf, I could not walk the course. I tried it once. I walked it once. My son saw how I couldn't do it. He bought a golf cart. He said it was
You're
for
such good children.
Yeah, he said it was for himself, but he never used it. I did.
Well, Uncle Si was a confirmed walker, and he ended up being like the last walker on the golf course.
There's one there now.
I said like the last guy. It's just like the guy who's there now. But yeah, and he would denounce the whole concept of golf carts as not
sure.
being Well, he got to the point where he couldn't walk either, and but he didn't take a golf cart. He just but he gave up his membership some years, and he'd been a member for 40 years or something like that. And he gave his membership up several years before he lost his ability to walk, and just started golfing at some of the other area courses.
Yeah.
So there was a point where he didn't go to the Muni for a couple of years, and he had been there every day.
I did
for years.
When I was golfing, I was there probably 3 or 4 days a week, at least in the morning playing. Wait till I never had a tee time. So I'd go up there, and if there was people waiting to go, I waited for them to go out, and Joe would say, "Okay," he says, "you can go now because all the tee times they're gone."
Right.
And it was great.
And there's something to be said for the 9-hole thing too.
I think they should have a 9-hole thing.
Yeah,
I think they should have.
If it can be worked into it would be like flying standby, but if it can be worked in to the schedule, then do it, right?
Yeah, but I don't see, they're not that crowded up there that they couldn't put a 9-hole in there.
Most of the time.
Yeah. I mean, you want to play 9 holes? Well,
maybe not on weekends.
You can't go out of the front 9 because we got a lot of people. But you can go out on the back 9.
Yeah.
By the time you're finished, everybody will be done. So.
I'm sure we used to do that when my father was golfing in the early '60s. There were many times we went out and just played 9 holes. Started at the back 9.
Yeah, a couple of times we'd go up there and there'd be 2 or 3 couples in front of us to tee off, and Joe said, "Well," he says, "the back 9 is open if you want to go out on the back 9 and see what happens when you come back around." Okay, we did.
We there were some years when I don't think they still do this, but they would like alternate years as to which was the front 9 and which was the back 9 that you would.
They didn't do that when I was playing.
Yeah. I know there were a couple of times, a couple of years there where you would start on what's now the 10th. Would be the first.
The first, yeah.
Yeah. And let's face it, you can often squeeze another foursome in there if somebody's playing slow behind you, or ahead of you.
Yeah. And only once, I think only once Joe came out and said, "Guys, you got to hurry up. You're holding people up." It's,
Didn't Mario used to go out and shush people himself?
Oh yeah, but Mario was.
He was a go. He'd get up every morning. He'd go to the early mass at St. Mary's, and then drive up in the city car to the golf course and drive the cart paths before the course opened for the day. He loved that course so much. He was out there every morning driving the cart paths.
And he had a special parking spot.
Yeah, well,
which is okay.
The heck, he was the mayor and he loved it. He still does. He still goes.
Yeah.
Somebody ran into him the other day. I saw him not long ago. He looks terrific. He's 90 years old.
I know. He looks good.
Holy mackerel.
Yeah. When I was an alderman, I said, how come aldermen can't play free? He said, "Are you kidding?" He said, "We would get killed." He says, "If we did that." Yeah. And I had to pay.
Yeah. Wow.
But it was a beautiful course. It's a beautiful course. I haven't been on it in several years, so somebody said it's in rough shape, that they're not taking care of it properly. I don't know if that's true or not, but...
So anyway, Joe Morendo's got a contract, right? And according, what the council passed.
Well, the mayor's not going to sign it.
Well, it doesn't matter. We'll get to that. That's absurd. So he has a contract that, I forget how long it is, 2-3 years, whatever it is, up to the time he's planning on retiring. All right. So the mayor's compromise is that we'll put him on the civil service list, making him a city employee, which means that the city ends up paying, whatever for him, in addition to whatever they're paying him. Then the city's responsible for their Social Security and this, that, and all that. And he'll have civil service protection. Baloney! He'll have civil service protection. He'll have zero protection.
That's right.
Because fact of the matter is, under the civil service law, you first of all they have to give a test. Assuming that it's in the competitive class of the civil service, mm-hmm. which I have to think it would be. Yeah. He would have to take a test and pass it and be appointed.
Right.
Okay. Right. Then, so I don't know how much time that's going to take. Then, after he's officially appointed by whoever the appointing authority is, and there's no guarantee that would happen either.
No, right.
There's no guarantee he's the person who's going to be appointed once they make it a civil service position.
Yeah.
So the mayor can promise all she wants. The council cannot force her to appoint somebody from the civil service list that they want when she wants somebody else.
Right.
Okay? So she could give the civil service test, and this other guy that she wants to come in and run the whole show can take the test and then be appointed. That's number one. Number two, say in good faith compromise, she then appoints Joe Morendo off the list, right?
Yeah.
Anytime within 6 months, even in the competitive class of the civil service, she can fire him for no reason whatsoever.
For no reason.
And considering that she always fires people for no reason whatsoever, even when she gives a reason.
There's no guarantee that he would keep that job.
No. And why would you trust her? Why would you trust her when she's already declared war?
Yeah, right.
Why would you trust her for a second? Yeah. You have my good faith on this. What's her good faith worth? Her good faith is worth nothing. Ask Rich Phillips.
Yeah, she's. I really can't understand what she's trying to do. I mean, we know that she wants Joe to gone.
Right.
We know but to what benefit? To what benefit to the city?
Yeah.
The only benefit is that she says that she would be able to take the golf cart money for the city.
Yeah.
But how much is that in a year's?
Well, I think they just found out it's worth like nothing.
Yeah.
which on top of everything else makes her whole argument absurd. I got to move these lights because I put we have studio lights here, but I put them between us and the clock, so I can't see what time it is. So we're going to change the shadows here. Okay. All right.
You're not in the picture anymore.
Huh?
You're not in the picture anymore.
I'm not in the picture? All right, there's one for you. There's
there
one
you
for me. Okay. All right. Oh, this is terrific. You know what I noticed when I wear one of my Red Sox jackets? It affects the white balance. So the color is completely different. You know, I record all these shows in the same place in the same spot,
but a different color.
But the color is substantially different from week to week. I don't know if you can see my Chinese calendar on here behind you from the Hibachi Full House Buffet.
I saw that. Yeah.
It's got you might be able to see the pandas eating their bamboo shoots. I'm not sure.
I don't think they can see it.
Well, whatever. So, happy Chinese New Year. We go up there about once a week. Yeah. And you know, and then when we do the takeout, we go to the place up by Price Chopper. And both places treat us wonderfully, right? You know. Does anybody work harder than Chinese people? Honest to God.
No.
It's hustle all the time. Yeah. They're like the Pete Roses of the restaurant industry, in a nice way.
In a nice way. They bet on themselves, though.
Yeah, and I'm talking about bad Pete Rose, not good Pete Rose, the Undertaker. Well. Anyway, so there's no reason. Well, first of all, this is no compromise. Right?
No, it isn't.
It's giving her everything she wants in a weird sort of way.
In a different way than what's...
It will cost more. Whatever she's doing is going to cost more. You know, she had no idea what Morendo's take on the net is on the golf carts. No. But assumed a wild figure. Yeah. And that's going to pay for the new guy coming in. But this is what she does. She never... I've got,
if Joe's getting paid, what, $27,000?
I don't even think it's that much, is it? I thought it was like 23.
Well, all right.
Oh, whatever,
$23,000. Is the new guy going to come in and run the course for $23,000?
No, he's going to come in and run it for like 50 or something, right?
Or more.
Yeah.
Or more.
Yeah. 50 plus, because...
Yes. And is he going to generate that much more money than anybody else? I don't think so. The
problem is she's now appointed a golf commission that has no interest in the golf course, apparently.
Well, no.
Or no idea how to run it. No. And she won't appoint people who volunteer to serve, like Mike Van Allen. Yeah. You know, she's saying, well, how are we going to get people to join the golf commission? I can't get people to join these boards. Give me some names. Mike Van Allen immediately writes to her, I would love to serve on the golf commission. Well, I can't appoint you, Mike, because you're not dedicated to my vision of the golf course. Well, who is? Who that you would want to be on the golf commission would be dedicated to this vision, which is no vision at all. You know, her vision is to milk the golf course or find a way to milk the golf course. Guess what? It's not going to happen. The golf course has not made money in 75 years. Why would it suddenly start now when the economics are as bad as they've ever been?
Well, I guess they did make money. They did make money for a while because
for a handful of years.
Yeah, because they had to pay off their loans. They had to pay off their their debts.
Well, yeah, but that's not making money. That's
that shows that it could if that.
Well, it shows that you're paying for your capital improvements,
right,
which you have to do before you start making money. So all the money that the course has made has gone back into the course. One way or another.
Yes.
Now, over the years, we've spent absurd amounts of money on the clubhouse. If you knew in advance what was going to break down, and you would have torn down the whole thing and built a new place years ago, because what we spent on the roof when it suddenly started leaking from 20 different places at once.
They spent more on repairing that clubhouse than the place up on Hales Mills built for a brand new place.
One. Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. But that's hindsight. It's gone. There's nothing you can do about it.
And whose idea was that to spend that money? With the golf commission?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
But the idea, the individual ideas to spend that money were not absurd at the time. It's just that cumulatively, okay, we just spent all this money rebuilding the place, and now the roof leaks. You're not going to, you're not going to not fix the roof at that point.
Yeah, right. You've got to do that
because you still haven't paid off the debts from the rest. And we put in, during the Villa administration, they put in the sprinkler system around the course. Right. That was not cheap. No. They put in the golf cart paths, which was not cheap. So yeah, there have been major structural improvements, capital improvements made.
Yes,
and they've been paid for out of the golf fees.
Out of the golf fees. Yeah.
So, where's the argument? I don't even know what the argument is. If they're not netting enough money, it's because and the golf course is half empty. Then the problem is they're charging too much. Now, when they say they charge a competitive rate with other area courses, that means nothing.
That means nothing at all.
It means nothing. You need to charge a rate that will fill this golf course. Otherwise, then you go to ultimately. Then if it's not going to work as a golf course, then you go to Plan B, which is either lease the course out to private enterprise, sell the course to private enterprise, or just sell the property.
They had that option at one time. 3 years. Well, I don't know how many years ago. 5, 6 years ago, somebody put a bid in that they had given the city $300,000 a year.
I think it's a lot longer ago than you think it was.
Wasn't it? Yeah. Well, maybe. Yeah. When you get to be my age, everything's.
I know.
Everything's last week.
I know. I think it was more like 20 years ago. But
no. This was when I was playing.
Okay.
$300,000 a year to lease the golf course.
Yep.
Wait a minute. That's $300,000 in the city coffers.
Right.
He's not going to. I don't know. We wouldn't have to pay the pro. We wouldn't have to pay for
You wouldn't have to pay any of it.
You wouldn't have to pay anything.
The DPW workers can go back on the streets.
Yep, $300,000, and he would hire all the people. That's wow. Do you think?
Oh yeah. I know what you're talking about. Yeah, I was thinking of a much earlier proposal that was put together by a couple of golfers years ago. Yeah, you're right. That was fairly recent. It was more than 3 years ago, but it was. It was we were there actually. I think. Or at least it was the concept was floating around. Now, Jerry Scrocky posted on Facebook the other day a study on what it takes for cities to lease out, to do just that, to lease out the golf course or privatize their golf courses. And it was very well written, and it gave a lot of examples of cities that have done that and how they worked out and what the pitfalls are, and if you do it right, that can be done. Now, I'm not saying don't do that. I think we should explore that possibility. Mm-hmm. I think maybe put out RFPs. But the way the mayor wants to do it is, I'm in charge of everything. I want to do this, but I want to be the one in charge. I want to dictate what happens. I want to, it only goes the way I do it, and I can only appoint my people to do this. First of all, we know she's no businesswoman.
No.
She doesn't think like a businesswoman. She doesn't act like a businesswoman, and everything she touches costs more money, right?
Yes.
So she should be the last person running the golf course, because she has no idea what she's doing, not running her own departments, for crying out loud. She can't run her own office. But put out RFPs. Say, lease the whole operation, the clubhouse, lease the whole operation.
Everything.
Now, if I'm the person who goes into bid to lease the golf course. I may very well want to keep on the concessionaire there on whatever kind of contract, because you get people to come to the place and see the golf course. You get people to give them a nice place to relax after playing 18 holes. It's let them work that out. What do we have to do? Well, okay. First of all, you got to figure out, and it shouldn't be too hard. What do we have to get a year to pay off the bonding on the golf course, right? So there are minimum amounts of money that the city would have to get in a lease agreement, so the city doesn't get caught holding the bag. But you don't know unless you try. The stuff that she's put out is, come work for the government, and let me add you to my list of $50,000 employees. God. Which reminds me, I need to correct something that I've been saying for weeks and weeks, and probably months and months, and maybe years and years. I've been operating under the assumption that the Corporation Council's name was put up by the mayor 2 years ago. The Common Council voted it down.
Right.
And that thereafter, notwithstanding that they didn't approve him, they gave him a raise. It turns out this is not entirely true. It was true for the first year, but in fact, at the first meeting of January of 2013, the old Common Council ran through a resolution approving the appointment that they had previously turned down, and it was never reported in the newspapers. Diane Hatzenbuehler provided me a copy of the resolution, the PDF file of the resolution. It was from January of 2013. They approved his appointment for the remainder of Mayor Thane's term at a salary of $65,000, which is about $10,000 more than my last pay, as I recall. Plus, he gets an additional, I think, $25,000 in office expenses, and plus a secretary.
When the council did not approve her appointment, she reappointed him.
Well, it turns out she didn't do that until the following year. But it doesn't matter. They had the opportunity for after 90 days to appoint their own person.
Right.
And I've been operating under the assumption that they still had that power, and I was wrong.
The Corporation Council kept saying she could keep reappointing him.
Well, yes, but he's a litigant, okay? If it goes to court, he's on the other side. You can't expect you can't take the legal advice of someone whose position you're discussing. Well, you can take it, but it's as meaningless as What's he going to say? No, I'm not the Corporation Council. Please don't pay me. No, I don't think so. Not even I would do that, as honest as I am. So anyway, so I've been saying all along that because they had turned him down, they could appoint their own attorney. That's not true. He is there for the remainder of her term. He cannot be removed except by the mayor, and then only with the approval of the Common Council. In other words, if he objects to his dismissal, the Common Council.
That's because the council approved it.
They did, and it was never reported. I'm sure I did not know that. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been saying what I've been saying.
I don't remember that either.
No, and it was just passed. It was just rushed through with all those 50 things they do at the first meeting of the year.
They also have the authority to raise the taxes above the 2%.
Yeah, I'm not so sure about that.
They passed a resolution the mayor and the corporation council says, well, this doesn't mean I'm going to raise it. This just wants to give us the opportunity to investigate it. So these dummies that we had on that council,
They were bad.
said,
That was
okay,
a bad council.
So okay, so that resolution passed that if she,
But that died when that council died. So they would have to do it again unless they did it by local law, which they didn't. I'm sure. I would certainly know that if they had done it by local law. But a lot of this stuff, you know, the reporters come and go, and if nobody comments on this stuff at the common council meeting, and it's just I.
yeah.
By the way, Richie voted no on that. He was the only one. Richie Legero voted no on the corporation council resolution. So much. No, oh God. The mayor. Dear God. This has only been an hour. I feel like I've been talking for 6.
I know it.
We had a little bit of fun referring to the Amsterdam Democrat site and on Facebook that I wish I hadn't read right after supper, but wow, what dreams I had that night. The mayor of Facebook has, when people were putting up comments about how absurd the site was, oh, it's just our wonderful Democrats have done. It was our Democrat council, referring to the last council. Let's see, how did that become a Democratic council? Because Joe Isabel switched parties at the end of his term. Yeah. Okay. Or in the middle of his term. It wasn't elected as a Democratic council.
No, it wasn't.
And then she has, I would almost say, the obscene audacity to say that it was our Democrat controller, Ron Wierzbicki, who called the state in to help straighten this stuff out. Well, it was over her dead body that he called the state in.
That's right.
As though Ron Wierzbicki was her longtime party ally. She fought him tooth and nail when he was running to be elected. When he took office, she drove him into an early grave. Yeah, and I don't think there's any question about that. And I say that in all sincerity.
She still badmouths him.
Yeah. And to then say, oh, what a wonderful party we have because Ron Wierzbicki, our good Democrat, did this. Yeah, what he did was good. And the state would not come in probably because she was asking them not to at that point. And how do I know this? Because I was with Ron Wierzbicki for a long period of time, a week before he died, telling me all this stuff. Okay, about what the mayor was doing and how she was, not following what she was supposed to be doing, and it was driving him crazy. And she was fighting him, and he was trying to get the state in. And he says, Bob, they won't come in. They told me they would. He's dead. He's dead 2 weeks, and they agreed to come in.
Yeah, they wouldn't come in.
Yeah,
but I hear Dave Dybus occasionally on the radio defending different things. He fought Ron Wierzbicki as much as the mayor did.
Yeah.
He was on his back constantly.
Yeah.
And now every time they turn around, he's citing something that they had done that was good. And I can't find anything.
Yeah, I don't either.
I can't find anything.
It was a horrible 2 years.
And he keeps keeps talking about how bad the budget is. He was part of it. Him and Jerry are the ones who
put it together.
Who put together the budget.
That's right.
So how can he talk against it? I don't understand.
Well, it doesn't matter. He was defeated, and we got a good person in there now. I'll tell you. You may not agree with everything Diane does, but my God, she does it sincerely. And she does it openly. And when she makes a mistake, she admits she makes a mistake.
Yeah, and she researches.
And she researches. That's right.
See, the problem the problem they're going to have, I guess, this coming month, they're going to start working on that budget. The people that are in there have no experience with the city's budget. everything that happens on that budget is going to be a wish list. It's going to be a guess. People say, well, how can they work on a budget? They take last year's figures and they say, well, maybe we can
only increase this by 2%.
Right. Or they'll back. Well, we gotta be below this, so we'll have to take $1,000 out of here, take $1,000 out of there, and bring it down. And that's all it is. It's a
game.
It's a game.
But I will say you got Ron Barone on this council, who's had a lot of experience with budgets.
Yes.
And how government is supposed to operate.
Yeah, but he knows how it's supposed to operate.
Well, I know, but there are, but at least he was constantly involved in it. Okay, when he was chairman of the board. He was a full-time chairman of the board.
Yes.
He had his own office up in Fonda, and he was there every day. Yeah. Going over all these budget items. He understands where that stuff is. One of the potential problem, which I don't think is going to be a problem, is we've now gone back sort of to the system the way it used to be, which means that the mayor proposes a budget which becomes the law unless the council changes it and overrides or vetoes.
Right.
Well, they're capable of doing that.
Yeah.
And I think they're capable of making their own determinations here. One thing that might save them this year is at some point the county healthcare trust, the health insurance trust, is going to finally dissolve and distribute the proceeds to the county and to the city and whoever else was involved. I don't even know how we do an AED or any of that stuff if we don't even know what our asset is in that trust fund. And we're talking maybe $1 million or more that's going to come to the city. I don't know whether they're carrying that on their books in any fashion whatsoever at this point. If not, that will be a nice.
$1 million. That you think there's $1 million that the city would get?
Yeah, I do.
Then that means that they've got to have $2 or $3 million in that fund up there.
There is. The last I know. Yeah.
Isn't there still a lawsuit?
Well, there's that. Yeah. But we could go on and on forever about that healthcare trust, which was illegal to begin with. But
I think I don't know. They're investigating the operation of the healthcare trust?
Well, they had to go back when they came in. There were no records. There were records, but there was no ongoing accounting, and they had to go back to year one, which was like 2006 or 7, I forget, and get out the check register or whatever to find out what. And we're not talking small. We're talking like probably thousands of accounts.
Oh yeah.
And so they've had to recreate it to find out what we were taking in, what we were paying out, who was paying this, who was paying that, who. It's a crazy system. Badly managed, badly set up, and a lot of people can take the blame for it. Maybe even me, because I served on the transition board briefly, and I couldn't make heads or tails out of it at the time. I said, "Are you sure this is what we want to do?" But anyway, that looks like it's in its final phases of being straightened out. And who knows what's going to come up when Matt Agresta finally balances the books from 2 years ago. Here's one thing, back to the golf course. The mayor asserted to me, and we've discussed this, that for, I forget which year it is now, 2011 or something like that, that the golf course was like $50,000 in the hole for the year or something like that would have to come out of the general fund.
Well, that was on the radio this morning. That
Yeah, okay. And once we balance the books from, once we close out the books from that year, then we'll have an accurate figure. I said, excuse me, this is an enterprise fund. The Common Council would have to have approved any transfer of funds to pay the debts of the golf course from the general fund. This is one of those commingled funds. Okay, they were just paying bills whether there was money in the budget or not. That doesn't count. Unless the Common Council approved that somebody did something illegal. But I really think all it is it doesn't balance because there was not that $50,000 that was supposed to be going to the city general fund.
Well, Dave,
but who knows? Dibus claims to know, and I don't think he could possibly know the true answer to that.
He said he read off the sheets that were sent to the state.
Yeah.
Page 48.
Yeah. Whatever.
That the revenue on the golf course was 500 and X number of dollars,
right?
And the expenses were over 500 and X number of dollars by $50,000 or $60,000, something to that.
Well, that doesn't mean it comes out of the general fund.
No. But he's just stating that. No,
and do those expenses include the money that was transferred to the general fund?
I don't think so.
No.
But
okay, but that now we're talking a cash basis again.
But the golf course was also paying the insurance for a couple employees from the recreation department, if I'm not mistaken.
I think that was part of the deal when somewhere along the line they must have struck a deal with the DPW union. To take all those employees off they had all those full, or at least they were full-time DPW employees. They do winters on the, but they took them off the golf course sometime during this term. When I say this term, during this mayor's administration,
right.
And it's something we had talked about during our administration because the union was adamantly opposed to Jim Derrick's proposal to replace most of the employees with seasonals.
Yeah.
And they had some court cases that they cited from Niagara Falls or something that said you couldn't do that without negotiating with the union about it. And we did have some discussions, and I came up with a proposal just for discussion. Never got past the discussion stage. That okay, we move all the DPW employees from the golf course back into regular DPW, and to the extent that this ends up with more employees on the street gangs, etc., than we had before, then the golf course, over a period of years, would continue to pay part of those salaries so that the general fund wouldn't get clobbered by doing that. Okay? Mm-hmm. So that for a few years, the golf course would be paying as much as they were before between the seasonals and then gradually by attrition, the number of employees would be reduced, and then the golf course would go on at a reduced rate. Derek pointed out at the time that the maintenance aspect of the course was costing something like double of what a private golf course would cost.
Right.
Because you're paying civil service employees at playing into the retirement system and everything else, and the health insurance and such. So part of the deal seems to have been, and I don't know because I wasn't in on it, that the golf course fund is paying either the health insurance or maybe also some of the actual salaries of people who are no longer there on the golf course. That would explain what's going on. Whether that's actually what happened, because that almost makes too much sense to me. That this administration would not have come up on that. But that was a practical transition. You get the union behind the plan. Nobody loses their job over it. You don't have to bump the new workers or anything like that, because you need the new workers, because the old ones are getting too old for this stuff. And you go on from there. So they seem to have made that transition to, at least to a certain extent, because my understanding there's only like one I'm not sure. One DPW worker, a union worker up there now, I think. I'm not even sure who that is. And the rest are all seasonal.
Maybe the mechanic?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
And of course you got, Derek himself, I assume, is still on the job, right?
Yeah.
I mean, again, that's a position that was not there before. It used to be under the recreation director.
Right.
But you've got a guy who knows golf courses. Okay.
He's designed a couple.
Yeah. I mean, he's a good guy to have there. So you want a guy who's got the experience, knows golf courses, knows what kind of fertilizer to order, and all this stuff. Knows how to maintain greens.
The only problem is he has to do a lot of the work himself instead of having workers doing it.
Well, then he was getting in trouble for that.
Yeah.
Every time he got on a tractor, we had a grievance, even though Kevin Devine did it for years. So anyway, the whole business of golf courses is interesting, but we didn't cover the mayor's absurdity of saying she doesn't have to sign the contract. I mean, I'm going to follow my corporation counsel's advice. Well, let's suppose that we leave this at that. Let's suppose she refuses to sign both these contracts, and now April rolls around, which is just around the corner. We open the golf course, and we don't have a pro there to let anybody on the course.
Right.
Because she refused to sign the contract. It's either my way or no way. So you don't have a golf, and you don't have a concession because she wasn't going to sign that either.
But I think
so. You don't have a restaurant. You don't have a pro shop. You don't have a pro. You don't have golf carts to rent. You've got nobody to set the tee times. This is a great system. That's her spirit of cooperation. So anyway, Diane says if she doesn't sign, they're going to just put up a resolution allowing the city clerk to sign on behalf of the city, which I think is perfectly proper.
Yeah.
I'm sure Jerry will say it's not proper, but you know what? Let them pass it. Let the city clerk sign it, and then let somebody else sue if they don't like the idea.
Yeah.
In the case of the concessionaire, there wasn't even another bid on it.
I know.
Yeah.
Well, they found out what she was paying, and they said, "Who wants?"
Right.
Why would anybody take that contract the way she had it originally?
Why would anybody who sees these controversies want to do any business with the city at all? Why would they? You submit your proposal. The Common Council approves it. And then you've got a mayor who won't implement it. Why go through the headache? Anecdotally, I've heard this from a lot of people that a lot of contractors will not do business with the city, and it's probably costing us more because of that.
Yeah, they don't want to. And the ones that come in jack their bids up.
Right, for the aggravation.
For the aggravation.
Yes, as they would have to.
Yeah.
But she still has her supporters. Oh, you're wonderful, Mayor.
Yeah.
Oh, isn't it terrible what they're doing to you?
Yeah, there was one in the paper, there, page and a half, or almost a whole page, that the one woman that touted how wonderful she is.
Yeah.
Well,
she's the only one who cares.
Yeah, she's the only one who cares. their son working for the city? Did somebody tell me that? No, I shouldn't even say it because I'm not sure. I thought somebody mentioned that to me, but
Well,
which is okay if he can do the job that that they've got him doing. You know,
hey, I don't care. You know, that's the way it's always worked, and
I
that's
don't have a problem with that.
you know, somebody I think who worked for DPW once said to me, you know, just look at the last names of everybody who works here. Somebody's related to some former alderman or other, you know.
You know, I don't have a problem with that as long as the person does the job he's
Right.
supposed to do.
Right.
Somebody's got to do it.
Right.
You know.
Right.
And
So might as well be one of your friends.
exactly.
Right.
Exactly. I know it. If you happen to be the guy that didn't get the job, yeah, you're going to be teed off.
Well, you know.
But that's life. That's life.
You know, and if you get involved politically with the opposite sides of the winners, you have to expect that you're not going to be first on the list.
Exactly. Exactly.
You know, I personally don't anticipate any appointments in this administration. I am available, however.
You gotta send a resume in. You can't just say yeah.
I'm available for paying positions. I'm no longer doing any of the free stuff. You know.
Well, there aren't too many paying positions that are open.
No, I know that.
Unless the mayor wants to create one.
Well, done that before.
Well,
I'd make a wonderful city historian. You know, they're not paying Van Hasselen to do it
right.
anymore.
That's right. There you go.
What does that pay now?
Mr. Mayor, Mrs. Mayor,
Yeah.
we have a volunteer
There we
that for a paid job.
Philip will get the job. How about that kid?
Isn't he something?
He posted yesterday that it's been posted before, but that wonderful Tony Karate ad from the 70s, Globe Construction. It was a full-page ad, I think, that he took out in one of the newspapers that says, "We're wrecking Amsterdam."
I haven't been on the computer in a couple days, so.
We're wrecking Amsterdam. And of course, Tony and Charlie Ski took down, God, how many buildings?
They took down a lot
because
of
they had
buildings.
all the urban renewal buildings, all the all the Grove Street that got torn down for the transport, and all those other buildings that got torn down for the transportation system. They did them all. Between the two of them, they had every contract, I think.
Yeah, they did a hell of a job.
They had somewhat different approaches to demolition.
Yeah. yeah. Tony would take it down and put it in the landfill.
Charlie took it down nail by nail. Nail by nail.
And he put all the boards and timbers up in his on his lot.
Yeah. Or in that warehouse down in the East End that Frank and Mike went to from American Pickers. God, I'd like to go down there. They had some great stuff in there. That was,
sure.
Old Amsterdam. Tony put a chain around it and give it a yank, and we're done.
Well, they had a couple buildings down there on Main Street that didn't come down so easy.
Oh, I'm sure.
A couple of those buildings were constructed so. I think I even forgot how did they hit it with the ball or did they try to use a clamshell? I'm not sure, but a couple buildings there they had a tough time taking down. It was so constructed.
Oh, look at that! My video of the river bridge going down there. They set off 4 blasts of dynamite and nothing happens.
And now they're supposed to take down that's still in there. In the river, there's still some pieces in there they want to take out.
Is that right?
I think so.
It could be.
I think so.
I would have thought they would have done that at the time, but the river's about 60 feet deep at that point, so.
I think I saw that in the papers.
It could be.
Yeah.
I came across in my research, and I don't even know what the year was, but it was probably around the turn of the last century, where when they were going through the temperance movement, before Prohibition, but there was a temperance movement at least from the middle of the 19th century until Prohibition came into effect, and each municipality had its own rules. Because there was no federal law regarding alcohol, and I guess the state left it to the individual municipalities. And there was a time when the city of Amsterdam was dry on Sundays, but Port Jackson was open. It must have been when the canal was still there, because they were not going to give up the canal business.
A lot of cities were dry until noon. You couldn't buy a beer until afternoon. Because I remember in Gloversville when I was a kid, they'd send us over to the bar with a pail, go get a pail of beer, and you couldn't go until noontime because they wouldn't sell it to you until noontime. So
lunchtime.
A pail of beer.
But apparently the bridge got a lot of traffic. Matter of fact, that's one of the reasons there was a bridge over the Mohawk. It wasn't the freight coming off the Erie Canal to the city. It was the pedestrians on Sundays running across the bridge to have a beer at the Armory Grill.
There was a couple of them just off the bridge too.
Oh yeah, well there were a lot of them. But that was why. But they had the canal port at Port Jackson, so the canal boats would haul up there overnight, and the guys, it was all bars and houses of ill repute along the canal, so they say, and little else, other than the warehouses and such. But yeah, so Sundays. Port Jackson was a thriving metropolis as all the mill workers from Amsterdam got thirsty. Oh, I've been up in the county archives the last couple of days going through some 1894 Recorder Democrats.
Really?
It's interesting. When they first merged the papers, when the Democrat bought out the Recorder, for about 10 years in the 1890s, it was the reverse of what it later came to be. It would be big headline Amsterdam Daily Democrat and then an Evening Recorder underneath, which is actually, makes sense because the Democrat bought out the Recorder. But later, we came to know it as the Amsterdam Evening Recorder and Daily Democrat on the bottom. It was exactly the reverse for about 10 years. And I'm pretty sure I know the reason it changed, because the Amsterdam Daily Democrat and Evening Recorder was a staunchly Republican newspaper.
Really?
By that time. And I mean, in every article, every editorial, it was denouncing Grover Cleveland and praising the McKinley Tariff and all this stuff. And on their, what do they call it? Not the banner. Anyway, on the editorial page where they talk about the newspaper and the ownership, it says, Amsterdam Daily Democrat, Amsterdam's only Republican newspaper. The Daily Democrat was the only Republican newspaper, proudly Republican. People forget that that's how newspapers really started up. They were party organs, and when you designate the official newspaper, it's the party in charge and does it. So the Republican newspaper, when the Republicans are in power, is the official newspaper, and the Democratic vice versa. And then eventually they kind of became nonpartisan or whatever. And
supposedly.
When you're it switched from time to time. And a lot of times they're both, or neither. But then, when you're the only newspaper in town, you're the official newspaper. But back in those days, there were all kinds of newspapers that were starting up, The Democrat was only 15 years old in 1894. They celebrated their anniversary. So yeah, anyway, I got a big charge out of it. Amsterdam Daily Democrat, Amsterdam's only Republican newspaper. William McKinley came to town in 1894.
Really?
Yeah, the Democratic Congress pushed through this big tariff bill just before the elections. And it wrecked the Northeast. I mean, they were closing down mills in Fall River, and because they took away a lot of the protectionist tariffs, so that it was cheaper to get carpets from abroad and knitting from abroad and all this stuff. Yeah. And it was crazy to do that when they did it. It was a congressional election year. The Republicans swept everything in 1894. Took over the Congress, took over every post in New York, from governor on down, assemblymen, congressmen, senators, everything. Down to dog catching. And the old tariff was called the McKinley tariff from when he was a congressman. And now he was governor of Ohio, and McKinley went on a whistle-stop tour through New York, plugging the Republican ticket. And he stopped in Amsterdam. And 2 years later, he was elected president. So, I'm gradually gathering a list of presidents who have appeared in Amsterdam at one time or another. It's quite lengthy, actually, starting with George Washington.
Well, it was the only way they could get out west. They had to come up. Well, that's right. Come up the valley.
That's right. So, plenty came through here, but I think the only president who came here when he was president that I've been able to find was Harry Truman, who actually did it twice. Although, it wouldn't terribly surprise me if Franklin Roosevelt did it during, one of the 3 times he ran for re-election. But I've never found a record of it if it happened. But William McKinley, Teddy Roosevelt certainly must have passed through here. Whether he made a speech or not, I don't know. Interesting. But Washington came through the valley when during that era of peace before the peace treaty was signed. After it took a couple of years after Cornwallis surrendered before the final treaty of peace, but there wasn't any war going on. Mm-hmm. Pretty much the fighting had stopped. They were just working out the terms. And so, he came up and, wanted to see the breadbasket of the Republic, and stayed overnight in Canajoharie. Anyway. So there we are. I don't know what we're going to talk about Tuesday. I don't know.
Well, something will come up.
Something will come up. Something absurd will happen between now and then.
See, we should have our shows on Wednesday because Tuesday night is a council meeting.
Yeah, yeah.
Of course, you'll get the resolutions that are going to be put up. We'll see what the problems are going to be.
I suppose we could, you mean actually prepare for the programs?
Yeah.
We could do that. That's an idea.
That would be a novel idea to prepare.
That would be a novel idea for us. We'll talk about anything. My wife was saying this morning, how some performer gets on his treadmill for 2 hours and does his whole show while he's on the rehearses his show on the treadmill, and just imagine doing that I said we do that every Friday. We talk for 2 hours straight. I could sing for 2 hours straight just like he does, I suppose, but trust me, it wouldn't be as entertaining as the show with Thane. hopefully Gavin will be back. We won't have Philip till the February break, which is coming up pretty quick, I guess. Probably just in another couple of weeks. But
They're on a break right now, aren't they?
well, it's Regents Week, so the high school's off, except the ones that are taking the tests. So, anyway, that's about it. Had enough?
I think I've had enough.
Okay. Yeah.
Well, it's an hour and a
You
half.
don't have to see the clock. I have to see the
I
clock.
know, an hour and a half.
We have plenty of time. About an hour and a half. So, anyway, I'm Bob Going. He's Jim Nikosha. Gavin Murdoch will be back Tuesday and probably next Friday. And that's it for this week on The Show with No Name.